Hello everyone, we are beginning where we left off, Master's Self-Realization and Ultimate Understanding, Shri Sadguru Siddharameshwar Maharaj. I believe we've entered the Nisargadatta part, so we'll continue. Page 93. The Self is the knower in all beings. Beingness means consciousness or knowledge. The mind attending to other things is what is meant by bondage. The mind, when not attending to anything else, is Brahman. When there is no thinking about the objects in the mind is clean. It is still. That is the state of Brahman. When you are happily asleep, it is a natural joy, or Brahman without any emotion. That which does not have any state or attitude is beyond emotion. It is you, who is the knower of the entire world. The body, the mind, and the sense organs, that you is the Supreme Self, Para-Brahman. Paramatman. To realize Paramatman is the final achievement. This knowing is itself a mystery. Drop the desire to pursue sense objects. One who ceases to desire wealth automatically becomes very powerful. To meditate on me, the Master, is freedom. Then you are free from all the sorrow of the mundane and the spiritual life. When the individual, Jiva, leaves the habit of projecting desires, he himself becomes God, Shiva. I give my status to the one who meditates on me. I send to hell the one who, instead of meditating on me, thinks only of family and money. Those who desire to have my power should meditate on me. I bestow upon them all my powers, my status, and my selfhood. Morning, 1911-1934. 5. Self-discovery. One who searches within oneself achieves self-knowledge. You who are the knower of all are yourself Brahman. Do not hold on to the concept that you are the body. Always think of yourself as Brahman. One who lives as a body will have to suffer the pains of the body. The sun, that is the self, is eclipsed by desires for worldly objects. Be identified with the sun, the self, and let go of whatever you have been accumulating up until now. If you give up your attachment to worldly objects while the eclipse is there, and also give up your lust for sensual gratification, then the eclipse will be over. You cannot experience Brahman without you yourself becoming Brahman. Note: it is custom among Hindus to give donations to charities and make sacrifices during the time of eclipses. Golden is the day for a man when his conceptual image about himself die away. Images about himself die away. This means that your ego should die. The Master will bless the one who endeavors to search for oneself. One should not take back what is once given. This means that one should not accept the objects of the senses after they are renounced. The Supreme Self, Para-Atman, is beyond even the state of omni-perception, or being, all-seeing. If the doer of actions has no sense of being, the actor, he is free of the action. He becomes that which is beyond all states. When the knowing of objects, or differentiation Oh, I'm sorry. Silly me. Differentiation. Oh, it's a tough one. Okay, wow. Let's see. Let's start that sentence again. Perhaps I shall have to edit this. Maybe not, we'll see. He becomes that which is beyond all states. When the knowing of objects, or differentiation, comes to an end, the false pride of me, the ego, is destroyed. Evening, 1911, 19-11-1934. God is the Supreme Self, Para-Atman. If you aspire to be with God, discard illusion Maya. The hope that is hidden deep in the innermost layers of your heart and mind is only illusion. Illusion puts a veil on the self. The self is within, and on it, illusion puts a covering. Brahman is only pure consciousness. The human mind by nature is normally extroverted, focusing objectively. When the mind becomes desireless, and remains so, it is Brahman. However, do not consider the mind to be Brahman. To be constantly thinking about the objects of the senses is to eclipse the self. When attention is diverted from the self towards objects, that is called the beginning of the eclipse. That is the illusion. That is mind. To remain without thought is Brahman. Naturalness is the sign of Brahman. There is no worry, no lust, and no desire there. In this naturalness, even if one's whole kingdom is lost, the mind does not feel anxiety. When the object's functioning of the mind is over, the natural state comes into being and one becomes steady in the self. When the worry and concern about worldly life ceases, the eclipse of the self is over. The illusion is then seen as the play of God, Vishnu, and is seen to be only Him. The illusion, when seen as only the play of God, makes the mind desireless and free of all worry. The illusion of the individual jiva remains full of cravings and desire. The desire of the individual ego goes even to the level of expecting that one must get a drop of water in the mouth at the time of death. Meanwhile, the consciousness, which is the self, never cares for the body. Of what use, then, is the repetition of the name of God or a mantra at the time of death? For the self, this is the key of desirelessness. How long in this earthly life? One foot is in the grave while the other foot is in the house. What is the use of family life? This attitude is the sign of desirelessness. However, for a man who is attached to worldly life, though it is possible that he may die tomorrow, he carries on all his activities as if lifespan will be for 100 years. The man without desire considers the lifespan of 100,000 years as if but one moment. The attachment in the heart that takes the form of pity towards all beings is only the illusory play of God, and is nothing but worldliness and worry. We should live for the Supreme Self, Para-Atman, and one time should be utilized in the service to Para-Atman. And our time should be utilized in the service to Para-Atman. Morning, 20-11-1934. 7. Objects of perception cease along with the perceiver. Okay. Seeing with wisdom is to feel that all is Brahman. You have heard this, but this is not meant to be merely heard. It is meant to be experienced. All beings are essentially of the nature of Brahman. If you start analyzing others, you become one of the analyzed, a separate entity, and this is bondage for you. When you think of another person as a thief, the content of your mind is thief, because you are thinking of a thief. When you speak about worldly objects, you take everything as real and behave and act accordingly. Yet when you listen to spiritual instructions or come to understand them, you rarely keep them in your mind as true. Maintain the attitude that all is Brahman and act with the conviction that is true. Do not keep it dormant in your life by merely saying, "I have heard it." Test it in your life and see if it is true or not. If you look at everything as being only Para-Atman, then you become God, Shiva. But if you see everything as being merely the phenomenal, mundane world, then you remain only as an individual Jiva. The world appears according to how you look at it. If you look at it as Brahman in various forms, you will see everywhere only Brahman. If you do this, the fever of me, the pride of ego, dissolves. For example, if there is a wife, then there is a husband. But if there is no wife, whose husband can be there? Because there is the seen, there is the seer. If there is nothing to be seen, how can the seer come into being? If you discard the seen, there is only Brahman. If all of the things in your possession are destroyed, what can the mind think of when the sense of I is immersed or is drowned? Then only Brahman is. The sign of pure Brahman is that there is no such thing as me or I in that state. Whatever is only Brahman. What you perceive of objectively as a person by some name or label, such as Mr. So-and-so, is not Brahman. If you have not seen who you are yourself, what is the use of going to sacred places of pilgrimage, such as Varanasi or some other place? If there is no awakening within to the spiritual nature of oneself, what is the use of talking about Brahman like a parrot would? Remove the poison that has affected your mind. You become more experienced according to what you do repeatedly over and over. Everyone has the habit of speaking about sense objects. Drop that habit and speak about the wisdom of Brahman. And that way, by constantly thinking of that, you become Brahman. You should spend your time discussing spiritual knowledge. When you talk of sense objects over and over again, you only become more worldly. The aspirant for the self-realization should keep relatives and friends close who are interested in these subjects. Do not waste your life talking with others. It is rare luck to have relatives who are devotees. If you have no self-knowledge, what is the use of worldly activities? The advice given by saints, who are our real relatives, is directly applicable to daily living because the advice is a dialogue in oneness. The master who shows us the path of liberation is our real relative. One should tune oneself like tightening the strings of a veena, an Indian musical instrument. If the instrument is rightly tuned, its sound will be resonant. Your relationship with the master should be one of that kind. He who helps himself is the truly lucky one. Evening 20-11-1934. 8. Throes of laziness. We are in essence formless, without qualities or form, and full of conscious intelligence, like the sky. This state is called non-laziness, the body consciousness, the concept that I am the body, is the real laziness. You should drop it permanently. Leaving this laziness behind, you should have devotion toward God, Hari Vishnu, and you should be the formless God Shiva and remain as Shiva. When you walk on the path for some distance, you can see the writing on the signpost and get guidance to further your journey. If you do many various activities for millions of years, As an individual jiva, you will not get any benefit. But if you become God Shiva and then worship God, you will get the fruits of your worship. Be a king and rule. Be God yourself and worship God. Sometimes the aspirant becomes lazy while worshiping. Laziness here means falling back to the level of body consciousness. Worship God by leaving this laziness of body consciousness. This is required to be done again and again with firm determination. Do not give in to laziness. 9. Self and non-self. Anxiety accompanies desire. As long as the mind is full of desire, anxiety will be there. When desire ceases, anxiety is no more. While walking on the street, many things are visible, yet we have no attachment to them. However, once a sense of mine is conceived, desire arises, and one immediately becomes preoccupied with objects. To feel that something is mine is itself bondage. What is truly ours is the physical body. For the body, the air that is inside goes out, and the air that is outside comes in. What belongs to you in this process? In the area of about 2 feet around the body, there are continuous currents of air. One who can see subtly can be aware of this. Many special days and festivals are coming and going, and you think that the things in the world are permanent and yours, but you do not see that you really exist prior to all these objective things. When the perception of objects ends, the desire for the objects also ends, and it does not matter whether objects are existing or not. If you think that it is only made from dust, is yours. What? If you think that is only made from dust is yours, you immediately become worldly. The mind, when dwelling on the self, is desireless, and when focusing on the physical body as me or mine, is full of desire. Strange indeed is this creation, consisting of the 5 elements, the one being that plays in all bodies is the all-pervading universal self. Understand that all is Brahman. The example of the ring and the gold is commonly used. If you consider the ring as gold, then only the gold is seen as the substance. But if you look at it as a ring, it is considered as a separate object. Water is water, both in the ocean and the pitcher. But water in the pitcher is separate if you keep the pitcher separate. So do not keep it separate. Know that all is Brahman. Consider all to be your friends, so that there is no duality or dislike in the mind. When you repeat the statement that all is Brahman, then why does your attitude not change accordingly? That is because your thinking is warped by the notions of virtue and vice, and you adopt a critical and dualistic attitude. One who pleases you is considered a good person, and the other you consider as bad. However, are there not many others who call that so-called bad person as good? Moreover, to what extent are you yourself good? Are there not some people who take you to be a bad person? Even God is considered in terms of good or bad by many people. The wise man says that since all are slaves of circumstances, living according to the destiny of the body, how can we differentiate between good and bad people? Circumstances have created the various castes, such as carpenters and cobblers, etc. The labels of various occupations have made us think of people as separate. Otherwise, where is the distinction of castes, etc.? Nobody is bad or good. All bodies are subject to circumstances. The stages of childhood, youth, and old age are therefore everyone. The young man will have a black mustache and not a white one, while the old toothless man cannot gulp down morsels of hard food, etc. In short, do not ridicule others. All are subject to circumstances. One may keep long hair on the head or wear a beard. It is all a matter of one's preference. Why should you hate anyone because of such things? Consider the one who criticizes you or blames you as a kind person. Keep an open, loving attitude toward those who give you a lot of trouble, and remain without enmity. Only then will you be as Brahman. Anxiety kills us very early. The one who worries dies with that worry, and hatred is a very heavy burden to bear. Vishwamitra, who was a bachelor and had done a great amount of spiritual practice, became ready even to murder when he went to kill the sage Vasishtha out of envy and jealousy. It is said that the bag of saffron, a precious, delicate tasting spice, became asafoetida, a pungent spice with strong taste and odor, only because of being in this vicinity. When pride disappears, the thorn that irritates you drops away. Kill pride, and then you will yourself become the divine sage, or Brahmamarshi. Prostrate before the one who hates you. If you decide that someone is bad, then you yourself become bad. One who has no enmity is himself Brahman. To quarrel indicates misunderstanding. The duality of differentiating between sense objects must end. Do not think in terms of hatred or enmity, or good and bad. It is only then that you become a Brahman. Have no enmity toward anyone. Evening, 21-11-1934. 10. True renunciation. Attachment to pleasure is bondage. If you say, I don't need anything, all problems come to an end. He who says, I want, does not get anything. He who says, I don't want, gets everything. The lion is trapped due to attachment, and the elephant is also bound due to its attachment to food. This is illusion maya. This is what is called bondage. A man becomes pitiable due to his attachment to a woman. He is trapped in the snare of attraction because for days he is longing for pleasure, and it becomes his need. When the fascination with his attachment is increased, he becomes a slave, just as if he is chained. One becomes tied down as if handcuffed only because desire is increased. If that desire is replaced by desirelessness, then the bondage is broken. This is the nature of the instruction that Lord Krishna gave to his disciple Uddhava. Then Uddhava asked Krishna as to how one could be completely desireless. He wanted to have pure desirelessness, born out of the sattva quality. If one becomes desireless upon hearing from others the bad effects of attachment, this detachment is called tamasic, desirelessness. If something is sacrificed for the purpose of gaining self-knowledge, then that state of detachment is rajasic desirelessness, born out of the Raja's quality. When the mind is convinced that all objects are illusory, this is what is called sattvic desirelessness. With pure sattvic desirelessness, one feels like laughing at the idea of relinquishing anything. Where was there really ever any bondage to relinquish? You have tied yourself up with ropes that are non-existent. You may say that you have dropped the shackles, but you were only holding fast to that which was not even yours. What was even yours? What have you dropped? This is what is called the true, pure sattvic renunciation. If there was nothing ever there to be dropped, then what is there to be let go of? Page 100. Boopity boop. And there we are. Okay. Thanks, dudes. Catch you next time for for another reading of Master of Self-Realization. And we're doing good. Doing good.